Okay, imagine this. A battery, right? Maybe in your phone, maybe something way more critical. And it doesn't need recharging for longer than recorded history, practically.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, doesn't it?
It really does. But that's basically what we're diving into today.
We are. We're looking at a really fascinating piece of tech, a carbon-14 diamond battery. It's a joint effort between the University of Bristol and the UK Atomic Energy Authority, the UKEA.
And this isn't just, a slightly better battery. It feels like a whole different way of thinking about power.
Completely. It's a fundamental shift.
Yeah. So we've looked at some great sources. There was that Glass Almanac piece mentioning it could last 5,700 years without recharging.
Which is just staggering.
Right, and other details too. So for everyone listening, especially if you want the key info without, getting bogged down in technical jargon, our mission today is pretty clear.
We want to unpack this carbon-14 battery. How does it actually work? What could it mean? Why is it potentially so important for energy, for sustainability?
Exactly. Let's get right into it. The core thing here. Carbon-14. I think most people, like me, probably hear that and think archaeology.
That's the usual connection, yes. Carbon-14 is, it's a radioactive isotope of carbon. And it's famous because it decays at this really predictable rate.
Which lets archaeologists date things. Old bones, ancient wood, that sort of thing.
Precisely. It tells us about the past.
So, okay, the twist here is using that same stuff, the stuff that measures ancient history, to actually power the future. That's kind of cool.
It is a neat paradox.
So how does that work? How does radioactive decay turn into, electricity we can use?
Right. Well, that's where the clever engineering comes in. The researchers figured out how to capture the energy that's released when carbon-14 decays.
Which is called beta decay, right?
Correct. During beta decay, the carbon-14 nucleus emits these fast-moving electrons. They're called beta particles.
Okay, electrons flying off. And the diamond part, that's not just a fancy casing.
Oh, definitely not. The diamond structure is crucial. It acts as a semiconductor.
A semiconductor.
Yeah, its crystal structure is perfect for capturing those electrons, those beta particles, and converting their kinetic energy, their movement, directly into an electrical current.
So it's like harvesting that decay energy.
You could almost think of it like a very high-tech, very tiny version of solar power, but instead of photons, it's capturing electrons from decay. The material science of the diamond is key, how it efficiently converts that energy over potentially thousands of years.
And because carbon-14's half-life is 5,700 years, that's where the incredible lifespan comes from.
Exactly. Half-life means that's how long it takes for half of the carbon-14 atoms to decay. So it keeps emitting energy, albeit at a slowly decreasing rate, for millennia.
We saw a quote, I think it was Sarah Clark from UKEA. She mentioned these batteries provide a safe and sustainable way to generate continuous energy at the microwatt level.
Yes, that's right.
Now, microwatts, that sounds really small. What can you actually do with a microwatt, even if it's continuous?
That's a really important point. You're not going to run your laptop or, charge your car with microwatts, but for certain applications, it's perfect.
Like what?
Think about medical implants, pacemakers, for instance. Their power needs are incredibly low. A continuous microwatt supply could potentially power one for decades, maybe eliminating the need for risky replacement surgeries just to change the battery.
Okay. So for low power, long life needs, it's a potential game changer.
Got it. Now, something else really stood out where this carbon-14 actually comes from. They don't just make it, do they?
No, and this is a really key sustainability angle. The carbon-14 is actually extracted from graphite blocks.
Graphite blocks?
Yeah, these blocks are used in certain types of nuclear reactors, and over time they become irradiated, containing isotopes like carbon-14. They're usually considered radioactive waste.
Hold on. So they're taking nuclear waste, something we normally worry about storing safely for ages, and using it as the fuel source. That's exactly it. It's turning a waste management problem into an energy solution.
That's pretty brilliant, actually, tackling two big issues at once.
It's very elegant. By repurposing this specific component, the carbon-14, they're creating this ultra-long life battery and reducing the amount of radioactive material that needs long-term disposal.
Okay, but what about safety? You hear radioactive, you hear battery, maybe inside someone's body. people are going to have questions.
Absolutely valid. And safety is paramount in the design. That diamond casing we mentioned, it's not just for energy conversion.
It protects, too.
Yes. Diamond is incredibly tough, incredibly stable. It's designed to completely contain the carbon-14 and absorb those beta particles it emits. So essentially, no harmful radiation gets out.
So the radioactivity stays locked inside the diamond.
Correct. The energy is harvested, but the radiation itself is shielded. Plus, the plan includes recyclability. At the end of its very, very long life, the idea is you return it to the manufacturer for proper handling.
Okay, contained, safe, recyclable. That covers a lot of ground. So we know how it works, where the fuel comes from. Let's talk applications. Where could we see these things? You mentioned healthcare.
Right. Healthcare is a big one. Pacemakers, yes, but also potentially things like implanted hearing aids, maybe drug delivery systems like insulin pumps, or even ocular implants. Anything where replacing a battery involves surgery.
Reducing risk, improving quality of life. Huge potential there. What about outside the body?
Space exploration is another really compelling area.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, think about deep space missions, probes going way out past Jupiter, or missions operating in places with very little sunlight, like craters on the moon. Solar power isn't always an option, and regular batteries eventually die.
Right.
A carbon-14 battery could provide reliable, continuous power for decades, maybe centuries. It could simplify mission design, extend operational life, maybe even reduce costs.
Powering satellites or landers for literally thousands of years.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, what about here on Earth? Any extreme places?
Definitely. Think about sensors or monitoring equipment in really remote or hazardous locations, deep-sea trenches, polar research stations, maybe monitoring volcanoes, or inside industrial facilities where access is difficult or dangerous.
Places where changing a battery is a major operation or just impossible.
Exactly. If you need power for decades without any maintenance, this technology becomes incredibly attractive. We saw Professor Tom Scott from Bristol mention they're excited to explore these kinds of uses with industry partners.
Yeah, it makes sense. The value proposition is really clear for those specific niches. So stepping back, looking at the bigger picture, how does this fit into, the whole drive for sustainable energy?
It's an interesting piece of the puzzle. It offers a potentially very eco-friendly alternative to conventional batteries for these long-life, low-power roles.
Because regular batteries have lifespan issues, disposal problems.
Right. They end up in landfills, contain heavy metals sometimes. This diamond battery, being so long-lasting and designed for recyclability, avoids a lot of that. And crucially, it addresses that nuclear waste aspect we talked about.
Turning waste into value.
It's a form of nuclear waste management, really. It doesn't solve the whole nuclear waste problem, of course, but it offers a productive use for a specific component of it. It's about using resources more responsibly, even radioactive ones.
So it's like closing a loop in a way.
Yeah.
Taking a byproduct and giving it a very long, useful life.
That's a good way to put it. Now, we do need to keep perspective. It's still relatively early days. The power output is low.
Microwatts.
But the potential is what's revolutionary. It points towards a future where we might have energy sources tailored for extremely long operational lives, sourced in a more sustainable way.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for everyone listening. We've taken a real deep dive into this carbon-14 diamond battery. We've seen how it cleverly captures energy from radioactive decay.
Using that unique diamond structure as both the energy converter and the safety shield.
Right, and how the fuel itself comes from repurposed nuclear graphite blocks, turning waste into decades, even centuries of power.
We've touched on the amazing potential applications from life-changing medical implants
to pushing the boundaries of space exploration and operating in extreme environments right here on Earth.
And fundamentally, how it represents a really innovative approach, linking nuclear technology, material science, and sustainability goals.
It's a glimpse, maybe, into a different kind of energy future for certain applications.
It really bridges a gap, I think, taking something often seen just as a challenged nuclear byproducts and finding a tangible, beneficial use.
Definitely food for thought. So here's the final idea we want to leave you mulling over. This battery has a potential lifespan measured in millennia, 5,700 years is the half-life.
Which is just mind-boggling when you think about human history.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So consider this. What things that exist today, technologies, maybe even companies or societal structures, might this battery actually outlast? And thinking even further ahead, what are the really long-term implications, the cool possibilities, but also maybe the unexpected challenges of having power sources that last that long? How might it change our relationship with technology itself across generations?
Yeah, what does it mean when your power source might outlive civilizations? It's a big question for a tiny, long-lasting battery.